So I went online yesterday and I was looking at some of my favorite YouTubers, and actually one I'm going to link to below. The name of his channel is Real Rap with Reynolds. I really want to encourage you to check him out, but he did something that really kind of inspired me. He was talking about this website, Teachers Connect. If you are not familiar with Teachers Connect, you should check it out. It is a discussion area, discussion board where teachers can go and ask questions of other teachers all around the country, and I just really think it would be great to check it out. I think you'll really enjoy that. I got on there and I started looking around, and I was just really inspired and wanted to stay on that website for a long time and just jumping around and answering teachers' questions. But one of the things Teachers Connect website did was they've challenged various education bloggers to do a reflection on how to be a better teacher. And they asked 5 questions. And so I want to go through these questions as well, and I want to encourage you, if you're a teacher watching this video, pick one of those questions and answer it in the comments down below. And I would just really be fascinated to see what you have to say as teachers about just one of these questions. Just pick one. So I'm going to go through these 5. Here's the first question. The first question is, describe the first time you realized you were becoming a better teacher. And for me, there are really 2 times that happened to me, because I can really divide my teaching career up into 2 different parts. The first half, I was at an alternative school, and I was there for about 8 or 9 years. And then after that, I was at a regular high school, Dunbar High School, for about 10 years. And when I was at the alternative school, we started a program called City as School, which was a program from the Department of Education, came out of New York City. And we were trained in that program. We implemented that program. And as a result, the coordinator for City of School in New York, he was doing a presentation in South Carolina. And the presentation was for state superintendent, or the superintendents of various school districts, principals, area superintendents, special program directors, and he invited me to join him in this training. So he and I were delivering this training. It was about a 3-hour training. It might have been all-day training. This was a long time ago, folks. This was over 20 years ago. Almost, yeah. I was probably 29, give or take, 28, 29, maybe 30. I don't think so. So this was well over 20 years ago. And just to be in that setting, helping make this presentation, being asked questions by superintendents, by principals, it really affirmed the work that I was doing. And so I really took value in that and pride in that, and I just really enjoyed that a great deal. After I left the alternative school and went to a regular high school, there were several events. Frankly, it was a really hard transition. I distinctly to this day remember being in that first staff meeting at Dunbar High School and thinking, oh my God, this is overwhelming. Because I went from having 30 all-day students to 180 students over the course of the rotations of the blocks. And it was just an enormous undertaking, and the challenge of delivering, not having a self-contained classroom, but delivering a lesson from beginning to end on a time schedule. So I just remember distinctly being a big challenge. But anyway, after being there for several years and kind of got my legs underneath me, I decided to get my National Board certification, which I did. That alone was not it, though. What really, I think, triggered for me is I'm pretty decent at this and I can help other people, was the coaching. I became a National Board coach and one of the district directors for the National Board Certification Program and the mentor program that we ran here in Fayette County. And working with teachers who were completing their National Board certification really inspired me. And I just really enjoyed that kind of interaction with my fellow colleagues. And so to me, that let me know that I was on the way to becoming a better teacher, even though by then I'd been in the profession 15 years. Question number 2. How important is ongoing learning to be an effective teacher? Look, if you are not always learning, this is an educational institution. You should always be learning. You're a role model for your kids. Always, and talk about that with your kids. Talk about how you're learning. I will say that I think I changed in the classroom as much in year 18, 19, and 20 as I did in year 1, 2, and 3. You've got to always be dramatically revising your teaching technique and always expanding your repertoire, whether it's Kagan strategies, scaffolding, vocabulary teaching strategies, cooperative learning strategies. There's so many things that you can be deepening your understanding of and really just dramatically increasing your skill set. You've got to always sharpen those tools. Read some professional literature that's out there. Get a book. Get some popular education books. Read those. I think you're going to find that those are inspiring. I know they were for me, and so just always learning. I can't imagine being a teacher and just not always pushing yourself to completely new things. I think that's it's so important every couple years to revamp and revise deeply. Question number 3. Describe a time you made a mistake as a teacher and what you learned from it. Wow, a mistake. There's so many. There was, but I think I'm going to narrow it down to 2. Yeah, I'll narrow it down to 2. The 2 mistakes, one is general, I think, and one is specific, but not with a specific event. One is being too satisfied, I think, with good enough. As a classroom teacher, I was a classroom teacher for 20 years, and I was a good classroom teacher. But I was satisfied with good, and that wasn't good enough. I think I could have been a great teacher, and I think I really, looking back, I have a lot of regret about not pushing myself harder to refine those techniques, to deepen those techniques in a way that I could have. I was too contained. And, some of that was part of the education profession has evolved a lot in the last 20 years and even in the last 8 since I've been out of the classroom, with the sense of community that's being built and learning from one another. So being satisfied with good enough, I think, would be a big mistake for me. The other big mistake was being too hard as a classroom teacher. And I loved my kids, and I really think the vast majority of my kids enjoyed my class and got along well with me. But from an academic standpoint, when it come down to giving students grades, I was too hard and I think probably unfair. Too much homework, graded things. These were freshmen. I taught mostly freshmen. These were freshmen in high school, 14 years old. And when students contacted me after they went to college and said, "Hey, Mr. Royster, guess what? I used your notebook and it really helped me in a college class." Maybe that was too hard for 14-year-olds. And so I think being too hard on the kids academically was probably a mistake that I've made. Question number 4. What advice would you give your first-year teacher self about becoming a great teacher? Well, I would give myself 2 pieces of advice. One, and I'd kind of done this lightly. Well, intentional reflection. When I first started my teaching career and I was working with mentor teachers and working with university professors, I was really intentional about reflection and of course, they were prompting me. I was being asked questions and asked to write responses, reflective responses. And that was really important, I think, to helping hone and develop my craft in the early years. But then after I was on my own, I wasn't intentional about reflection. I thought about what I did that day or what I did that week or what I did that unit and how I could do it better, but it wasn't as intentional as it could have been. So specific journaling, I think, would be one thing I would tell myself to do. Go back periodically or even daily, journal about what happened that day and how you could be better and what events transpired. The other thing would be being a part of a community outside of school. It was very easy to form communities within the school, fellow teachers, even teachers that didn't teach my subject area. And we had great conversations in the lunchroom, in the teacher's lounge during planning periods, wherever it was. But we're all in the same world and we're all kind of thinking the same anyway. There's a broader community out there. And I really think the internet and this website, Teachers Connect, can really help expand that horizon, that there's a community out there. And I really would have told my teacher self to do that more. Go to conferences, be involved, go to trainings, make connections, intentional connections with colleagues, and keep those connections alive and strong. And building those communities outside of the school, I think, would have made me a better teacher. Question number 5, and the last question. How am I working to improve myself this year? Well, really, that goes back to question number 4, what I would have told myself. So that is what I want to do this year. I want to be very intentional about reflection and specific journaling, and I'll share that at some point in a future video. Developing a specific journaling prompt and strategies and techniques. If you've ever seen Tim Ferriss is one of the biggest podcasters in the country. He also has a YouTube channel, and some tips I've learned from him about journaling and reflection I want to implement as a teacher. And developing community. You know, going back to the YouTuber that I watched, Real Rap with Reynolds, it's quite clear that he's developed a community outside of his school, and that's inspired him, and he inspires others in return. And so I want to be a larger part of a community as well. And so that's two things that I'm looking to do this year. The third thing I'm looking to do this year is just find greater joy in being here at school every day, being with the kids every day. There's one person that's really inspired me, but it also reminds me of somebody else. And one of those is a former colleague of mine, Miss Huber. Hello, Miss Huber. I hope you see this video. She is no longer with me. We're no longer working together. She has moved to another school. And working with her over these last 4 or 5 years just really inspired me. The joy and the passion that she brings to the workplace every single day. The novelty of it, you know, making something new every day and just diving in and enjoying what you're doing. Really, truly, Karen, you really have inspired me to just find more joy every single day, and that's what I want to do. And my old Dunbar colleagues, if they remember Mr. Woodyard, I remember when I first started there, he showed us this video, the thrown fish video, these fishmongers who just took great joy in their job and throwing fish all over the fish market. And it was really kind of funny, but his point that year was to have fun, enjoy what you're doing. And I think that's so important, to not only enjoy what you're doing, but others need to see that you enjoy what you're doing. And I know that's difficult to remember when you're up to your elbows in alligators, but express that joy to your colleagues and to your teachers, and I think that's real important. So those are the answers to my questions, guys. I hope you will pick one of these questions and answer it down below. I'm really interested in seeing what you've done. That's it for today. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.